All right, so how late is too late? I mean, this is getting pretty late. Mobvoi just announced that Wear OS 3 is finally coming to the TicWatch Pro 3 and the E3, the two watches they sold with the Snapdragon 4100 series chips. For folks paying attention, that's just over 2 years since the release of each watch, more than 2 years from when we first saw Wear OS 3 on a Samsung watch. It's not a great look. Wear OS 4 is already available. It's on my Pixel Watch too. But I gotta get my bias out of the way at the top of this video, my preferences. I've always been a hardware feature guy. I loved LG phones. I was not loving LG for their terrific software support. Now, I'm about wrapped up on a longer look at the Pixel Watch 2, that video coming soon, and when that video goes live, I'm probably gonna switch back to my TicWatch 5 Pro because I like this hardware better. This video is not to convince you to give Mobvoi a pass if you care more about updates, but I still feel it's worth breaking down the situation. I think we should be frustrated with this company, but I think it helps if we apply blame in the right directions. This is not solely a TicWatch problem. As a fan of this hardware, I'm gonna ask those armchair reviewers in my audience to suspend that knee-jerk reaction techies sometimes have when they try to personify a company and then act like that company has a singular personality and then apply motive like, I guess they just don't care about their customers, or they must have wanted to make a bad product. Because I don't think that's what's going on here. Wear OS 3 has been kind of a chore. Google changed a lot, and most of it has kind of been for the worst. The old process. All Wear OS watches used to use a common backbone app on all phones, Android or iOS. The Wear OS app was responsible for pairing, setting up, and managing your watch. Any brand, any manufacturer, you had a common platform for managing all of your wearables. Have 3 different watches from 3 different manufacturers, all paired to your phone. They were all in the Wear OS app. Wear OS 3 broke that. Now every watch manufacturer has to make their own management backbone app. Wear OS is not the same unified platform that it used to be. So of course, this is going to wildly favor huge companies that have the resources to build a unique infrastructure app to properly manage their watches. And that just makes it seem less fair that companies like Fossil and Mobvoi largely kept Wear OS watches alive for years, while Google kind of let the platform stagnate, to then see Google turn around and make Samsung a solo preferred partner. I mean, we all get why Google did it, but it did put a huge hurt on the diversity of the Wear OS ecosystem, and that's been to varying levels of success. We've seen the smartwatch and fitness band market float better during the post-pandemic sales crash, and the whole wearable market is up year over year. But Samsung's success has been a roller coaster ride quarter by quarter. Most recently, trying to track Samsung's Q3 2023, they're down 7%, and Huawei is nipping at their heels in global sales. Wear OS made for a cozy relationship with Google, and it helped Wear OS sales numbers, but I don't think it really did Samsung any favors. Rebuilding the confidence of a platform takes time, but I think it would have been bolstered by more support per manufacturer. If Wear OS is gooder across the entire ecosystem, consumers might feel more comfortable getting back into it. Right now, that Wear OS label on some products is good. And on some products, it's just a stream of low reviews. Google kind of left Fossil and Mobvoi out to dry, and we still see negative reviews from folks who don't understand why these new watches need new apps or lack features like the Google Assistant. I think we can be pretty confident that it's not a decision on Mobvoi's part to exclude one of the foundational features of Android. So considering how good the Apple Watch is, I have to believe that this kind of bifurcated approach to support leads a not insignificant number of consumers to give up and go to the monolithic ecosystem. And along the way, Mobvoi has updated and supported their products. We just never got that big update number after the words Wear OS. They've still received some support, but I can't say that Wear OS has been a grand improvement. It replaces some of the functionality and app support that Google broke on Wear OS 2, but OS 2 was often faster and more responsive than the interactions I've had on Wear OS 3. No longer using that Samsung chip, now Google is using better hardware from Qualcomm in the Pixel Watch 2, but up until we got to this point, interactions on my older TicWatch Pro 3 running Wear OS 2 were more responsive than on my newer TicWatch Pro 5 running Wear OS 3. And for a long while Wear OS 3 was out, we still had some limited Google Assistant support on the older hardware. Maybe the only benefit, at least the only one that I can kind of detect in this new system, manufacturers can choose if they want to still support iPhones. Mobvoi is publishing an app for iOS that brings some functionality to a TicWatch plus iPhone pairing. I'm not sure how many people might line up for something like that, but it's nice to see that just because Google has chosen not to support iPhones moving forward, that's not locked into all Wear OS watches now. Moving on, while I think Google is contributing a lot to some of this market disparity, Mobvoi is not blameless. I think their cardinal sin was going radio silent. There were some early announcements on upgrade paths for their 2021 watches, and then there were delays and a couple token press releases, and then there was just a vacuum of communication, and that's always a terrible strategy for a company. I get why they might have done it looking at the Fossil side of this equation. Fossil started updating their watches way sooner than Mobvoi did, but it seems like it was a really painful transition. And that also did a lot of damage to Fossil's reputation. The momentum of that still felt today. It doesn't feel like Fossil is making Wear OS a priority anymore in their catalog. They're currently experimenting with another style of smartwatch and a proprietary OS, and the Gen 6 watches are some of the lowest reviewed watches in the company's history. So I think there could have been a middle ground between a painful series of public updates and going totally radio silent. I think Mobvoi should have stayed in the conversation, even for as aggravating or as painful as that conversation might have been. They could have showed off more of their work and maybe expanded more of a public beta test for people to weigh in and contribute. But moving forward, if you still have a Pro 3 or an E3, this is still some brilliant hardware, and an update to Wear OS 3.5 should restore some of the app compatibility, move you up to a more current security patch, and who knows, maybe by this time of year in 2025, maybe my TicWatch 5 will get Wear OS 4. It could happen. But seriously, I think it's time for other brands to just leave Wear OS. Google saw a surge in smartwatch sales this year. Most of those sales were Fitbits, not Pixel watches. Samsung has done really well and floated a tech recession admirably. But this last quarter, even Apple saw year-over-year sales improve, and Samsung saw a pretty steep decline in shipments. Some of the fastest growing brands in this segment, they're not using Wear OS. But specifically to Mobvoi, and I hope they hear this, I really like your hardware. I also really liked the little fitness tracker that had an RT OS installed and got over a week of battery life. But I can't quite make this jump as my daily. The only critical feature I just can't let go of, I really want rich notification support and proper speech-to-text replies is really the only thing keeping me tethered to Wear OS these days. I like some of the other little applets and the fun stuff, but I would totally give all of that up if I had a great fitness tracker, better battery life, and rich notification support. I'm not saying that's easy, but it's not an impossible ask. We had that on the Pebble back in the day, speech to text. I had it on the Qualcomm Talk 10 years ago. 10 years! Other connected accessories have had incredible speech-to-text capabilities like old LG Tone neckbands or the Focals by North, those heads-up display glasses. Even at the lowest level, like maybe one of the tricks that Garmin users have used, the annoying basic operation of turning your watch into a headphone and using that to chat with your phone's assistant. Mobvoi, there's gotta be a way that you can take this powerhouse hardware and use your own OS with it and be free from the lag Google introduces in supporting your products. So I've rambled on long enough. As we get into wearables, just like my comments on stuff like headphones, this becomes one of the most personal tech products someone might buy. It has to tick all the right boxes, not just functionality or support, but also style. And then materials that won't upset our own personal biology. It's way better if we have a robust ecosystem of options for folks to get the exact right fit for their needs. I really wish Google still delivered that with Wear OS. So of course, I would love to hear some tasty hot takes down in the comments below. I'm sure these kinds of business moves over the last 2 years have influenced how you buy accessories and what brands you're likely to shop with. So let's hear it. What are you doing to outfit your own personal area network of accessories? And when you head down to the comments, maybe smash that bell icon because algorithm. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. All the support lately has been absolutely amazing. Those of you checking out my home site, SomeGadgetGuy.com, clicking on links in video descriptions, or maybe you're joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon. That's patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy, basically across all of social media, but these days I'm spending a bit more time on the Mastodons, the Threads, the Flickrs, a little less so on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, or definitely not the Twitters, and I will catch you all on the next video.